And now, we talk about food. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany. Here we talk about all the food happenings around Acadiana. If you like food, tune in. You might learn something new. Okay, so since 4th of July was on a Wednesday, I think that technically means that we get 2 holiday weekends. I know some people were doing that, and I was seeing a few places on social media that this was also a holiday weekend. So if you're still at the beach, I'm totally jealous of you. I happened to be off for the 4th of July this year, and we decided to grill hot dogs, and it was fun. We did some vegan hot dogs, and we will talk about how they are not like the ones at Dat Dog a little later in the show. Not a fan. Not a fan of them. Bob, you didn't even taste them.
I did not.
Yeah, they didn't even look good.
No.
I had to, in fact, when you opened them, you had to like take them out of the casing to cook them, and the consistency was just really bugging me out.
It's not for me.
Yeah, no, not a fan. The cocktail, however, that we made was delicious.
It was.
We played around with it a little bit. It consisted of cantaloupe puree. I did a mint simple syrup, which next time I make it, I will just do simple syrup because the mint didn't get picked up in it at all. Salt. And then we added lime and then Brazilian style rum to it. And then you need to let it sit.
Yeah,
overnight.
Letting it sit overnight.
Because what happened was we made it the night before. We kept adding things because it wasn't tasting exactly right.
Yeah.
And then I finally just said, we need to just leave it alone and let it sit overnight. And then the next morning it tasted delicious. The salt was like a really good addition to it. You. But it was that was your idea. Good job. So another successful 4th of July cocktail that was entirely too much for us. And it didn't last long, too. That was the other thing. Like, if you make this at home, you need to drink it all in that day. And it makes like a giant, I feel like it was like 3 gallons.
It was a sun tea pitcher of cocktail juice.
No, that was bigger than a sun tea pitcher. That was like, it was a huge like party pitcher, and it filled it up. And then I was worried. I was like, do I need to go buy more rum for it? And then I was like, nope, we're good. I put 2 cups of rum in there.
And you didn't taste it at all.
You did not. And that's why I was worried. But
one of those scary drinks where you don't taste it.
One of those sneaky drinks.
Yep.
And then we finally got the peaches. We finally got to grill them.
That was amazing.
2 ideas for unconventional uses of peaches. Roast them in the oven and eat them with vegetables, and it'll add like a little sweet component to that. And then also we grilled them on the grill, and then took goat cheese, topped it with goat cheese, drizzled it with honey, and then added pumpkin seeds to it. And it tasted like we decided a very fancy, expensive tasting gelato.
Yeah.
Like it would have been like an expensive gelato flavor.
It tasted like what peach yogurt is trying to taste like.
Yeah, it was delicious. It was creamy. It did have an ice cream kind of consistency to it. So super easy dessert. And almost kind of like a savory dessert too, a little bit, because it had the cheese, the goat cheese component to it.
It was the winner for me for the holiday meal.
The other thing that we did was we made figs. I talked about this on last week's show. We wanted to get some figs, wrapped them in bacon, also with goat cheese, cooked them and baked them in the oven, and then drizzled them with balsamic vinegar glaze. Do not buy your figs from Costco. I learned they were beautiful. They were big and beautiful. I was like, these are going to be great. You know, they're the right size to be able to wrap completely around. No flavor at all, just texture. And I was like, not having Louisiana figs ever again.
Yeah.
Learning lesson there. So they have them at Costco right now, and I'm sure they have them in other grocery stores as well. Just look to see where they're made, because I don't know if the other ones are going to taste like that or not. I don't know if they taste like that because they were so big, but just a warning.
Yeah, I feel bad for people
get Louisiana figs.
Yeah, I feel bad for people that can't get Louisiana figs because those are sad.
Yeah, I know. And And I've been looking on social media because I always have somebody that's like, my fig tree is going crazy. Please come and pick some. And I haven't seen anyone do that yet. So I guess we're not at that point in the year for that, but hoping so, and we can kind of check it out again. Joining tonight as guest co-host is Daphne Olivier, better known as the Unconventional Dietitian. What did you guys do for the 4th?
For the 4th of July, I don't really remember. It wasn't anything super exciting.
It was in the middle of the week.
Yeah, we didn't really do too much. Oh, we went to my parents' house. And grilled. We just had some ribs and chicken and just traditional 4th of July stuff.
Nice.
So nothing super fancy.
Okay. And then I know the night before, Zach McMath was last week's guest co-host. They said that they were doing a dinner with you at Tops, and you did that the night before.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So we got together. It was his girlfriend's birthday, and he threw her a birthday party in the kitchen. And so it was all the family that was there, and they all cooked. They made my job super easy. I basically have all the recipes there for them, all the ingredients, and they cook. And, they had a great time just kind of chatting and doing, family stuff. They all knew each other, obviously. So it was a really, really fun time.
I asked them if they were going to get competitive with each other since it was all family cooking. Were they very competitive?
Not too much. No,
okay.
They had some younger kids there, from some kids from the family. And no, I don't think they were competitive. They just seemed to have enjoyed the time together.
What did you guys cook?
We did bacon-wrapped dates.
Nice.
And then we did sheet pan chicken fajitas, which is one of those stupid simple meals.
Yes.
So chicken fajitas, like in a sheet pan, but roasted in the oven pretty much. And then they had some spinach and black beans and guacamole and cheese and tortillas, so they could do like a salad style or however they wanted. Then we did crawfish curry. It was really good.
Okay, wait, tell me about this. I've never heard of this.
It's a crawfish dish. This is my friend Christina Chirillo. It's her recipe.
Okay.
But it's crawfish with sweet potatoes and broccoli and curry and onions. And it makes kind of the consistency of like an etouffee, but it's a curry dish. And it's delicious. Everyone always loves that recipe.
That is a really unique way to use crawfish, and it's a healthier version. And I would have never thought of that.
Yes,
way to go,
so
Christina!
Good.
She's been a guest on the show several times, so that is really cool.
Yeah. And then we did a flourless chocolate cake.
Nice. Okay, so flourless chocolate cake. Can you take us through how to make that really quickly? Because I always see this and I'm not really sure. It's almost like, isn't it almost like a brownie?
Well, this one is made with the consistency is with eggs. So you do like melt some chocolate in the double boiler, and that's where you're going to get your chocolate. And then you separate the egg whites and the yolks, and the whites you whip them to make almost like a meringue, like to where it's really stiff. And then put the yolks in with the chocolate and kind of stir that around, and then you mix them together and bake it in a springform pan.
Oh wow! Okay.
And if you get it just right, it's really fluffy and very, very airy. And so it's not real heavy. It's just the taste of
kind of like a lighter
delicious.
chocolate dish.
Super light.
Okay, we are going to take our first break, and when we come back, we have more with Daphne Olivier. We are going to be taking calls tonight, so if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask Daphne or myself, you can call in at 232-1542. We're not going to be taking them on the air, but we'll talk about your questions off air. So come back to us. It is the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
The best tasting radio show in all of South Louisiana. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Deku, and joining tonight as guest co-host is Daphne Olivier with the Unconventional Dietitian. We are taking phone calls tonight. We're not going to do them on air, but we'll answer your questions on air. Bob's actually talking to somebody right now, so once he finishes up with them, we'll get that information and try to get that question answered. But you guys can call in at 232-1542. Bob, what you got for us?
It is a
multitasking.
Mary asked, she misses the mom and pop hamburger spice, and she says it's not cayenne and it's not chili powder. So it's like mom and pop hamburger shops around here. And she's trying to figure out what other kind of spice it could have been.
She doesn't think it was maybe Tony's? That's what I would think that it would be.
Might be.
Do you have any idea?
So just mom and pop places in general?
Yeah, like just like a home style type of hamburger.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a Tony's or, something.
Like Tony's, salt and pepper, garlic powder.
Yeah.
I'm thinking something like that.
Yeah, my mom just put salt, pepper, sometimes powder, garlic powder in bread.
Okay. We'll have to get somebody, if somebody knows the answer to this, like what seasoning blend they put in a mom and pop hamburger, call us and let us know. 232-1542, because now I'm kind of curious about it.
Yeah.
I wonder if she would have had like a specific mom and pop place that she
didn't.
Because I'm wondering if like the next time I go, I can ask them if they'll tell me. Probably not. It's probably like proprietary secrets.
Probably so.
Yeah.
She was talking about like the mom and pop places that aren't really around anymore.
Okay.
Oh, because I was thinking even they have. I was thinking about something that's more of a newer spice or a new seasoning blend. But yeah, I would imagine probably Tony's. That's
a good
kind
bet.
of. That was the one that was for so long, kind of by itself. It seems.
I don't know.
Man,
that's
somebody
a good question.
Yeah.
She stumped us.
Yeah.
But if anyone has the answer, please call and let us know. 232-1542. Okay, speaking of Tony's, and I don't know if it has MSG in it, so please forgive me if it does not, because I know some people are very like intense about MSG. Yeah. And from what I'm learning, it's not as serious as people are making it out to be. What are your thoughts on MSG?
Some people have some severe intolerances to MSG. And it's mostly the glutamate in there. So in that case, it can cause a lot of side effects for people that have some kind of intolerance. I think that we can make foods without MSG. So it's really kind of just a filler to enhance the flavor. Not a filler, but it enhances the flavor and kind of unnecessary if you have a good product. So I feel like if MSG is being put in something, it's really kind of to cover up the fact that it's not really a great food.
Okay. There's a host of one of the podcasts that I listen to, The Sporkful, and for 1 year he ate everything with MSG in it, and just to kind of see, because there's a lot of people that have this mentality that it's really bad for you. There are people out there that do have a sensitivity to it, but it kind of got a bad rap, and he was kind of trying to prove that it's not as bad as people made it out to be. But I kind of agree with you too that you can kind of do it without it. I think there's a lot of question, I'll say, or controversy over neurological damage that it could cause. And that's really just glutamate in general, which is MSG is a condensed, intense form of glutamate. So, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion either way. If I can do foods without it, I usually do, because that means that it's going to be a better food product, in my opinion. So tell us a little bit about your business, the Unconventional Dietitian.
All right. So I work with people, typically. I have a couple of different things that I do, but I like to work with people individually who have generally some kind of medical issue going on. I work a lot with people that have blood sugar handling problems. So whether you call it a touch of sugar or pre-diabetes or diabetes or insulin resistant, or all these different terms that kind of mean the same thing or very similar things. I work a lot with those, and also with women's hormones. But I help people figure out three things. One is what foods should they be eating. Two is how to prepare them, and I do that through my cooking classes. And then the third is how to fit it into their lifestyle. And so that's kind of my mission, is to work with people and to train them so that they no longer need me to guide them, that they can develop the thought process of how to figure out what foods they're supposed to be eating on a regular basis.
So there's so many diet plans out there now. There's paleo, there's keto, there's blood sugar, whatever your blood type is, like that's what you should be doing. It can be almost overwhelming, because you'll turn on the news and one day they'll be saying this thing and the other day they'll be saying to focus that one. How do you help people decide what's best for them?
Well, I feel like everybody has a diet that's going to work for them. So I could have like my Daphne diet, and then because it worked for me, I push it on everybody because it should work for everybody. but everybody has their own little thing that's going to work for them. So I usually start with what their symptoms are and whatever kind of medical issues they have. So if they have labs that we can look at, we'll look at what their iron is and what their blood sugar is or insulin. So we just kind of look at the bigger picture and help them develop what's going to be best for them. Bottom line, every diet on the planet is really should focus on eating vegetables. I think that vegetables is the food that nobody wants to admit is really healthy in every diet. It's really good in every single diet. And so if I'm completely stumped, which doesn't happen often, sometimes we have to figure out, like, it's not always a straight and narrow path. Sometimes we have to navigate and figure out what's going to be the best thing, but always focusing on vegetables. If there's ever a question, that's always the best way to go.
Speaking of vegetables, I'm trying to incorporate more vegetarian and vegan meals into my diet. And it always makes me very leery because so if I'm doing just vegetarian, I feel like I always want to like bulk it up with rice and carbohydrates, and I kind of like try to stay away from carbohydrates. So I've been trying to look for Whole30 vegetarian or vegan dishes because that kind of stays within the realm of what I try to do and what works best for me. But it's hard, and I'm going to admit, like, my diet has been all over the place the last few months. But one of the things that I've always been super leery of is protein replacements, like meat products. So like soy-based products, and then like the vegan hamburgers, vegetarian hamburgers, those kind of products. What are your thoughts on those?
I'm a big proponent, and I consider myself to be a real food dietitian, meaning if it's not real food, it's probably like real food, meaning something that grew off of a tree or a plant or an animal. Then once we start getting away from the most natural, real product, then our body doesn't always know how to handle those things. And so I'm with you. Those meal replacements that are super, super highly processed soy or, those type of products are, our body doesn't know how to handle those very well. So vegetarian diets can be done well, but you have to really focus on real foods and not convenience foods. And that's where I think that a lot of vegetarian things kind of go wrong, is that we focus on, like a vegetarian hot dog, like you talked about, or a vegetarian hamburger. And I think that whenever to be able to get those products to have the consistency that we like, that we're expecting with a hot dog or a hamburger out of vegetables, is really hard. And so you have to do that by using different types of fillers and emulsifiers and things. And so sometimes that's where people can start to go awry. So I think you can do a vegetarian diet healthfully, but it takes a lot of effort.
The case in point with that, so I fell in love with the vegan dogs at Dat Dog. I like them better than the regular hot dogs. They told me that they were eggplant base is like what the base, which sounds relatively healthy to me. I mean, I'm sure it has other stuff in there too, but for that to be the main component, that sounded good to me. Someone had told me that they had them at Whole Foods. So I went to Whole Foods, found something similar, but the base of those were potato. And I was like, that's not that great of a base. And they do not taste like the Dat Dog one. So just FYI, unless, I'm sure I'm not cooking them the same way that Dat Dog is, but they're not the same. But it's kind of just like, I don't like tofu because I don't like to eat soybean stuff because it really freaks me out. And it's just like, I feel like a lot of people, if they go to that type of diet, they may kind of think that that's the easy way to do, and it's not necessarily the best thing for them.
I think I can definitely support a vegetarian diet. Vegan's a little bit harder. I do think that your body can benefit from some animal products, like some eggs or butter. Those kind of things can be really helpful as good protein sources and fat sources without actually having to eat meat. But yes, it does take a lot of planning. And again, the base of the diet should be vegetables, just like any other diet. And whenever we start getting astray from that, so technically things like potato chips and popcorn and, popsicles and, sodas, all of those things are vegetarian. So, we really have to look at what we're focusing on and making sure that the biggest part of the meal is actually real food, and then it can be helpful.
I know, because it's the easy way is to be like, oh, cheese fries, because I mean, technically that is vegetarian, cheese pizza, kind of things like that. And that's why I always find like I want to stay away from rice or pasta in the dishes, but I also feel like that's a way to bulk it up to where it like fills you up some more. Because like, how do you do that type of diet and not be starving by the end of the day?
So the things that are going to keep you feeling full, number one is fat. And so you have to be careful whenever you start taking animal products out of your meals, then you're kind of left with not a whole lot of fat options, but things like nuts and seeds can be good fat sources. Coconut and coconut milk, like canned coconut milk, avocado, those are all really great fat sources. So fat is going to keep you full the longest. And then the next thing would be fiber. And I would say probably protein and fiber are kind of hand in hand. So fiber is going to be found in vegetables, but typically, actually, fiber is going to be found in the biggest bulk in beans. So beans are going to give you a little bit of protein, a whole lot of fiber, and that's going to be your best choice to give you something that's going to fill you up. The other thing I think is that it can be a little bit of a process, so that you're gonna, if once you first start, if your body is used to breaking down protein all the time, you might feel a little bit hungry. And it's okay to be hungry a little bit. You know, I mean, I think that when people start to feel hungry, there's somewhat of a panic. Like, oh my gosh, I need to eat right now. Hunger is not a bad thing. But allowing your body to feel that hunger and then, waiting some time and then having another meal and not panicking is a good practice to get into.
That's a good point about psychologically. Like, we think as soon as we feel like our stomach starts growling that it's like, oh my God, panic. Right. I need to eat, start getting shaky, and then hangry. And then in my case, I mean, I look at all of my social media is food stuff that I follow. And like, you're looking at these delicious, it's like making it worse. That is a prime example about how so much of this is psychological as well.
Absolutely.
All right, we are going to take another break, and when we come back, we have more with Daphne. So come back to us. It is the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
From Boudin to the best burgers Acadiana has to offer, it's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Deku, and Daphne Olivier is our guest co-host tonight with the Unconventional Dietitian. We are taking calls. If you guys have any questions for me or Daphne, it's 232-1542. Bob is manning the lines, and we will try to get your question answered. Although the first one stumped us.
Right? You know what?
No one has called in yet. You had a good one.
It might be MSG.
It may be MSG.
Or Kitchen Bouquet, the Cajun MSG.
You're right. Kitchen Bouquet, I thought was just used to darken the roux.
Yeah, but it's just a flavor kick.
Yeah, some flavor.
It does have some flavor to it, too? Okay, well, good to know. Daphne, you have some cooking classes that you have been doing over at Tops Appliances. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my office is in the Tops Appliances and Cabinetry building, which people always are a little taken back by because they're like, oh, why is your office in a kitchen store? But this is why, because they have live kitchens, and so we go in there and we can do cooking classes. And I usually have it themed of some sort. So we have one coming up this week on Wednesday night, and this one is all about sweet treats. So I am teaming up with Yvette Quantz, who is the dietitian that does Eat Fit Acadiana. And we are also teaming up with Swerve Sweetener, which is an erythritol sweetener, so a sugar alcohol sweetener. It's really, really good.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing a class on Wednesday, and we will be making peach cobbler, protein-packed fig muffins, peanut butter cookies, and blueberry chocolate candies.
Where can you get the sweetener at? Because I do not like artificial sweeteners at all.
Yeah. So this is a perfect mix. It's not sugar, but it has it tastes a whole lot like sugar. It doesn't have the chemical flavors that most artificial sweeteners have. You can get it at Drug Emporium and Whole Foods are the two places that I know you can get it.
Next time I go to Whole Foods, I'm going to have to check it out because I got stevia because that was the one that I disliked the least.
Right.
And when I use it, it's like the tiniest bit. Like I learned long ago when I was doing keto that I'm just going to drink my coffee without a sweetener in it because I hate, it's disgusting. Like, I can't do it.
I like doing the liquid stevia. So that's typically what I use is liquid stevia because you can control how much goes in it. And so like I will put a couple of drops. My husband may put a bit more, but it's just a little bit easier to control how much you're putting in what you want. And if you put a little bit and it's not enough, you can add just a little bit more. So I like liquid stevia best.
What are your thoughts on coconut sugar?
Coconut sugar can be a good sugar. It still does have calories and it has the lowest impact on blood sugar, but it still will affect blood sugar. So I think it's a good alternative to sugar, but it's also not as sweet as sugar. And so in some cases you may end up using more of it, which then, may or may not kind of negate the idea of using less or having less of a blood sugar issue. All
right. That's good. It's good to know. I had bought some coconut sugar. When did I guess when I was doing Whole30, maybe I had bought it then, but I liked it. I liked the taste of it, but I did know it has the calories and, it was pretty much like having sugar, just like slightly better.
Right. Well, and it's also a little bit of a tan color. So I make lemonade a lot at my house. It's like a staple that we always have. If we have a bunch of kids over and we have a pool, so we do it a lot. I've made it with coconut sugar before and
it turns the color.
Yeah, it's not real pretty. It's something that you have to serve and something that no one can see the color because it's like a brownish yellow. It's not beautiful.
All right, good to know. So the cooking classes, if somebody wants to do a private cooking class, do you offer that?
Yes, absolutely. So we can do like Zach did where it's a family, or even we've done like book clubs or just ladies that like to get together. So we can do those kinds of classes too. Typically we'll do 4 recipes and they're all kind of cooked at the same time. And so people will get to, I don't do the cooking. That's one thing that I should say. It's like a hands-on cooking experience.
Okay.
So everybody can get involved. And I think the beauty of it is it kind of gives us that community kitchen feeling. Like maybe, generations ago, a bunch of people would get together and cook in the kitchen. So it's that kind of feeling, but you also have, I will talk to you about what I know about the recipes, but there's always inevitably people who have way more experience in the kitchen than I do. And so, and then there's usually someone who's like, not so sure about the kitchen. They don't like to cook. And so they can learn from one another that way. And so it's a good learning experience for everybody.
Very cool. Where can people go to get more information and to find out when the classes are happening?
So currently the only class that's scheduled, I'm working on a couple of them for the fall, but the only class that's scheduled right now is the class that's coming up on Wednesday. And the best place to go is to my website. It's the unconventionaldietitian.com. And then you can go to the upcoming events tab. So the unconventionaldietitian.com/upcoming-events. It's really easy to find, but that's where I'll put all of my cooking classes.
So Rob Kirkpatrick, who does the morning show, when I did the show on Friday, we talked about how you were coming on, and he wanted me to specifically ask you about protein shakes. So it's like everywhere you hear, they're advertising how much protein is in something, protein.
Right.
And he had found these dessert protein shakes that it was supposed to be like flavored like Butterfinger. And he kind of wanted to get your thoughts on protein shakes.
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Okay, first of all, it's important, I think, to take just a step back and think about when we're talking about what's considered macronutrients, we have carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So everybody is wanting to stay away from carbohydrates right now. And I think that's somewhat of a smart move, especially whenever we're talking about processed carbohydrates. So the only other things that we have are protein and fat. And because of the fat scare that's been going on for decades, that fat is not good for us, the next thing that we have is protein. So that's really kind of the push for protein for everything, is because to this point, protein hasn't been demonized at all. So as far as protein shakes, I think there are a lot of components that you have to pay attention to. One is what kind of protein is in there. So it can be anything from a whey protein, which comes from milk, to hemp, or egg white protein, or collagen protein. I mean, there's all different types of protein powders, and I think some of those can be beneficial. In the sense of something like a Butterfinger, that's going to have some kind of sweetener in it that's not going to be fruit. So that's what the biggest thing that I would pay attention to is what kind of sweetener is in there. It's probably going to be, it could be stevia, or sucralose, which is Splenda, the name
which
for
is
Splenda.
awful.
Which
That's
is
what I
awful.
used to have back in the day. Did not like it. Yeah.
Well, and it's also, Splenda was really marketed to people who have diabetes and are trying to manage blood sugar. But whenever outside sources tested Splenda, so meaning Splenda was tested by people other than the company that made it, they found that it really does affect blood sugar. Not as much as sugar, but it can raise your blood sugar. So generally speaking, it's either going to be stevia or it's going to be the sucralose. Sucralose, I have a problem with. Stevia, not so much, but the amount of stevia that you would need, I'd be very hesitant to taste it because I don't know if it would taste. I mean, nothing's going to taste like a Butterfinger.
Right. He said that it had something like sugar-free butterscotch in it, and I can just imagine that tasting very chemically.
So sugar-free means that it doesn't have sugar, but it does have something still in there to sweeten it.
Right.
And so depending on what that sweetener is would depend on how I would feel about it. But I am a fan of protein smoothies or protein shakes, but they really kind of need to be done correctly, meaning you have to have some kind of protein in it, which would come from a protein powder. And depending on what you like or what your preference is would depend on what kind of protein powder. You have to have some kind of vegetable is my preference. So spinach thrown into a smoothie is really easy. And you have to have some kind of fat, and that can be either from like a nut butter or it could be coconut milk or avocado. And so when you have those components, you can throw some fruit in there, but we have to be careful with the amount of fruit. So you can make a good protein smoothie. Whenever we start doing like dessert protein smoothies, I raise my eyebrow. I'm not exactly sure that I would go for that.
Can't the body only process so much protein too? Like I've heard something like if you're eating all this protein, it's actually really bad for you because like it sends the system into overdrive because it's trying to process it.
If it's something that happens, like if somebody's going to have protein in the sense of a meat, so let's say somebody has like a 16-ounce steak, that's an excessive amount of protein at one time. And the body will take what it can, and it will really, it can't break down all of that at one time. So some of it will be wasted. But excessive protein on a regular basis can be really hard for your kidneys to break down. So we do have to be careful, and, balance is important whenever we're talking about carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. We do still need to focus on balance, but the quality of the food is really a much bigger conversation to have.
So you and I, before the show, were talking about 2 smoothies that we like to make. So tell us the one that you like to make, because it's probably healthier than the one that I make. But go ahead and tell us yours, and then I'll tell mine.
Okay, so my favorite smoothie is frozen cherries, cocoa powder, canned coconut milk, and spinach. And I blend all of that up, and it is like the most decadent, delicious
like chocolate
thing.
cherry.
And then, of course, I use collagen protein powder. So that's the protein powder that I would put in there. But, that can change it up. It doesn't really matter.
So mine is technically not a protein shake because I don't put a protein powder in it, but I do almond milk or whatever kind of nut milk that I have at home, cocoa powder, almond butter. If I have avocado, I'll throw like half of an avocado in there, a ton of spinach. Like I throw a lot of it in there. And then the tiniest bit of stevia because I don't like the taste, but it does need some of the sweetness to it. Mm-hmm. So it's like a chocolatey peanut butter shake is what I'll have some mornings for my breakfast.
Yeah, so get you some protein powder and put that in there.
Put that in there too, and it'll bring it in there. Okay, Good to know. All right, we are going to take another break, and we come back more with Daphne. Again, if you have any questions, 232-1542. Come back to us.
She puts the wow, yum into words. It's the Lafayette food junkie herself on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany. We have been talking with Daphne Olivier, the Unconventional Dietitian. Want to give a shout out to sponsor of the show, Prairie Run Rice. And if you guys have any questions for me or Daphne, you can give us a call at 232-1542. Okay, so let's talk about the cauliflower craze. I feel like cauliflower is everywhere.
Yeah.
I have gone on many tangents lately about how sick I am of cauliflower, and like I just cannot do it. Like I'm over cauliflower rice.
Yeah.
Ever since I was doing hardcore keto and I was like cauliflower rice, and then I judged a gumbo cook-off and had regular rice, and I was like, nope, I can never eat cauliflower rice again. Like, I can't.
That's kind of how I feel about zucchini noodles. I am
Yeah?
so over zucchini noodles. I just can't. I don't love them. I never did. The cauliflower rice I'm okay with though.
So somebody told me if I like fry it in bacon fat that I'll like it, and I was like, isn't that kind of defeating the purpose of it?
It's still keto though.
It is, and I was like, yeah, you know, that is still keto, but like, I mean, if we're trying to do vegan stuff, you can't fry it in bacon grease.
Yeah, well, and I would say, you know, to that point, the type of fat that you use, the type of bacon that you used is going to make a big difference in the health quality of frying cauliflower rice in bacon fat. So, you know, in animals, toxins are stored in the fat. And so if you're getting just conventional bacon that's from the grocery store, those animals are, generally speaking, have a lot of toxins that they are given either through hormones or antibiotics or their feed. And so all of that goes into the fat. And then you then fry something in that, then, you know, it's going to taste good, but it's from a health perspective, not going to be the best thing for you.
So basically, next time I'm up in Shreveport, I'm going to go to Mahaffey Farms because they sell jars of lard from their farm, and it's like organic pasture raised.
Yes. Well, also in Iota, Molly over at Bonvie Kitchen, she has lard that she has from her pigs that she raises on her farm.
Okay, I know there's got to be other places around here too that do it, so we'll have to check that out. And I have I use avocado oil a lot too. Costco has it. It's relatively cheap for a giant bottle, so I've been using that a lot.
That's usually what I use.
And I'm crazy in the fact that I have also duck fat that I got from Whole Foods. It's the Epic, and I like break that on special occasions. I really only fry eggs in it. It's like a special occasion fat,
right?
Because it's very pricey,
right
for the amount, but it is such good quality fat. So if you have that cash, go to Whole Foods and check that out over there.
But I think that to your point about the cauliflower rice, I do think that kind of frying it and crisping it a little bit gives it a totally different texture than just steamed cauliflower rice, because then it gets kind of mushy and yuck.
Because I was buying the bags and you like steam it, and so it was like super mushy, and I was just like, I was making a lot of curry, so I'm so glad you told me about that crawfish one. Like, I'm really interested in that. And then just doing it over the cauliflower rice, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot do it. And the Prairie Run rice, the ones that actually sponsor the show, that rice is really good.
Oh, I haven't tried that one.
So they have it at Sean Pines, and I think they have it at Adrian's now too. Okay. It's in like a little black bag, but it's non-GMO, and it's
good.
It's organic, like it's really good quality rice. Like
Yeah.
I've never thought I would be like, oh my God, this rice is so good. And
you're from Louisiana if you're critiquing rice, right? And the quality of the rice,
right? And that's like where I am. And so now it's like kind of hard for me. Like I'm like, come on, girl, you gotta get the rice back out of your diet. But it's good to splurge every now and then. But also with the cauliflower crust pizza is like everything,
right?
And I've looked at some of the ones, like everyone was talking about the one at Whole Foods, and I was going to buy it, and I flipped it around and looked at it, and it had like corn flour in it, and it had so much carbs. So if you're watching your carbs, like I was like, this is as much as a regular pizza.
So it kind of depends on how you're going to use it. So I would say, I don't eat gluten. So if you're trying to get away from gluten, then cauliflower crust can be beneficial. It's not going to eliminate the carbohydrates because, face it, cauliflower doesn't stick together. You have to add things to it to make it stick together.
Right.
And so that's going to it's going to also decrease the cost of making the product whenever you're adding things like rice flour and corn flour. So depending on what you're looking for would depend on if it's really beneficial for you. But to say that cauliflower pizza crust that you buy in a store is low carb is definitely not the case. It can be, it's an alternative to regular pizza. That's kind of how I think about it.
That's good to know, because gluten-free pizza crust is so hard to find.
Yeah, well, and you can find it in different places, so it kind of depends, if gluten-free pizza crust is going to be just strictly grains.
Yeah.
Whereas, gluten-free grains, but it's going to be made strictly from grains. Whereas cauliflower pizza crust would have a little bit of a vegetable in there. But the idea, so whenever cauliflower pizza crust first came out, it was all homemade because you couldn't buy it. And that was really like cauliflower. It was a true pizza crust.
I mean, I've made it at home, and it's like
making
cheese,
it with
cauliflower, and eggs.
Yeah, and so that is a totally different thing than what you're getting in the grocery stores.
And on that note, too, I just want to say, like, La Pizzeria makes a cauliflower crust pizza, and it is that version. I think the whole crust has, like, 9 carbs in it.
Nice.
And they kind of... So this was the big complaint, is, like, you couldn't pick it up and eat it, and it is not that kind of a pizza. Like, you're not going to be able to.
Right.
But they said that they tweaked the recipe a little bit.
Yeah.
So you might be able to pick it up now, but it's a good, if you're looking for that true low carb pizza crust, like, they have it there. And then also, not the healthiest pizza, but when I was doing keto, someone had told me about it. These pizzas, it's from a company called Real Good, and the pizza is made out of chicken breast. So
yes, I've heard of that before.
I've seen those too. I'm not, the amount of sodium that is in this.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of like chemical-y stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it's okay. Like, it's not like, if you're wanting pizza, it's definitely better than the cauliflower crust.
Yeah. Well, I've made those before where it's, I think we call it a pizza. Or it's like a chicken. It was chicken as the crust, and then you kind of brown that and crisp that, and then you can put your pizza on top of it. But going back to the whole idea, like you said, that's not super healthy. The whole idea that we really need to focus on how we're getting vegetables in our diet. If that's the only meat that's in the pizza, then it might be okay, and you can load it up with other kind of vegetables. So, there are healthy ways to do it, but just because something says, that it's labeled a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that it's always healthy.
Okay, we have about 3.5 minutes left of the show. Recently, I came across something on social media, and it was about sprouted rice. And I kind of like did a quick Google search, and I looked on YouTube, and I saw some videos of some people like teaching you at home how to make sprouted rice or beans. What is the purpose of that?
So, any type of bean or grain, so not just rice, but you can sprout all the different types of grains, and even nuts and seeds can be sprouted. So the purpose of that is that it's going to break down some of the what's called anti-nutrients. So phytic acid is a natural acid that's found on nuts, seeds, and grains, and it's just a natural protectant to protect the plant so that insects don't attack it. So that it is part of the plant whenever you eat it too. So when you sprout it, it's actually breaking some of that down. It also, for lack of a better way to say it, kind of awakens and alives some of the other nutrients that are in the grain or the bean so that it's easier to absorb.
Okay, that's good to know. And if anyone's interested, I found all these YouTube videos about how to do it at home. Apparently, there's these special containers that you can buy.
Yeah, it's not hard. It really isn't hard at all. It just takes time.
Yeah, she showed it, and it's I think it was like over a week, like it takes to make them. But she showed it how to do it in a mason jar. So if you ever, if you have that, or like the special containers to do it. And I think that I was seeing that you could even buy the sprouted rice.
Yes,
maybe at Whole
you can
Foods.
buy sprouted rice and sprouted beans. It's pretty pricey considering how easy the process is. It's not a hard process at all. So I've never bought it sprouted, but to that point, there are some breads that are sprouted grain breads, like Ezekiel bread is kind of the most popular one.
Yeah.
And it's the same concept, is that the grains are sprouted before they dehydrate it and make the flour out of it to make the bread. And so it's just a more enlivened product that's easier for you to digest and break down.
Daphne, this has been a very educational show. Like, I feel like I've learned a lot. Let's plug your website one more time. So if people want to get more information about future cooking classes and the one that's coming up, where they can go for that.
All right. So I have my website. It's the Unconventional Dietitian, and dietitian is spelled Dietitian. theunconventionaldietitian.com. I'm also on Facebook as The Unconventional Dietitian and Instagram, again, The Unconventional Dietitian.
All right, that's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next week, Sunday at 6 p.m. This is Tiffiany Daku on News Talk 96.5 KPEL, and this is the Lafayette Food Junkie Show. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy eating, Acadiana.